The date is October 2024, and one of the world's busiest aviation hubs announces something almost unthinkable. Dubai International Airport, the crown jewel of Emirates Airline and the third busiest airport on Earth by passenger traffic, will close. Not for a day, not for maintenance. Dubai International will shut down completely for 4.5 months in 2034, ceasing all operations at the airport that handles over 80 million passengers annually and serves as the operational heart of one of aviation's most successful airlines. The decision seems catastrophic. Airlines will be displaced. Billions in revenue will evaporate. The logistical nightmare of relocating an entire major carrier's operations appears insurmountable. This is the airport that transformed Dubai from a desert outpost into a global aviation superpower. Why would anyone willingly shut down a money-printing machine? The answer lies not in failure, but in victim of success, and in a gamble made decades ago that is now coming due. To understand this extraordinary decision, we must first understand what Dubai International represents. When construction began in the 1960s, Dubai was not a major city. It was a modest trading port with ambitions far exceeding its resources. The airport opened in 1960 with a single runway, and for years it served primarily regional traffic. But Dubai's rulers understood something fundamental about geography and economics. Located roughly equidistant between Europe and Asia, Dubai sits at one of the most strategic points on the planet for long-haul aviation. An aircraft can reach 2/3 of the world's population within an 8-hour flight from Dubai. This wasn't luck. This was the entire strategy. Emirates Airline launched in 1985 with just 2 aircraft, both leased. The business model was audacious. Use Dubai as a connecting hub to funnel passengers between continents, undercutting the traditional carriers on price while offering superior service. It worked spectacularly. Emirates grew exponentially, and Dubai International expanded with it. A second runway was added. New terminals rose from the sand. Terminal 3, which opened in 2008, became one of the largest airport terminals ever built, dedicated almost entirely to Emirates operations. By the 2010s, Dubai International was processing passenger numbers that would have seemed fantastical just 2 decades earlier. But success created an invisible problem, one that wouldn't become apparent until the infrastructure reached its absolute limits. Dubai International sits in the middle of the city. When it was built, this location made sense. The city was small, and accessibility mattered. But as Dubai exploded in size and became a vertical forest of skyscrapers and sprawling developments, the airport became landlocked. There is no room to expand. The 2 runways operate at near maximum capacity. During peak hours, aircraft queue for takeoff like cars in rush-hour traffic. The airport operates around the clock with only brief maintenance windows, and even those are carefully choreographed to minimize disruption. Here's where the engineering constraints become critical. Airports are not infinitely scalable. Runway capacity is determined by separation requirements between aircraft for safety. 2 closely spaced parallel runways like those at Dubai International cannot operate independently in poor weather or with certain aircraft combinations. You cannot simply add more gates or terminals if the runways are saturated. Dubai International hit this ceiling years ago, and every percentage point of additional growth required increasingly complex operational gymnastics. Meanwhile, another project was taking shape in the desert. In 2004, Dubai announced plans for a new airport, Dubai World Central, also known as Al Maktoum International Airport. The location was strategic, 37 kilometers south of the city, in the middle of empty desert where land was cheap and expansion unlimited. The master plan was staggering in ambition. 5 runways, capacity for over 200 million passengers annually. It would become the largest airport in the world, dwarfing even Atlanta and Beijing. Construction began in 2010, and a cargo and passenger terminal opened in 2013. But then something unexpected happened. Growth slowed dramatically. Airlines didn't rush to relocate. The new airport sat in the desert, underutilized, while Dubai International continued straining at maximum capacity. Why didn't airlines move? The answer reveals a fundamental truth about aviation economics. Airlines, especially hub carriers like Emirates, are creatures of network effects and operational efficiency. Moving operations is extraordinarily expensive. Crews need retraining for new facilities. Ground equipment must be relocated. Passenger connections become more complex if operations split between two airports. Even more importantly, Dubai International had something Al Maktoum didn't: proximity to the city and established infrastructure. Passengers and airlines alike preferred the convenience of the existing airport. From a pure operational standpoint, staying at Dubai International made sense, even as the constraints tightened like a noose. But the leadership of Dubai and Emirates understood what many observers missed. The constraints at Dubai International weren't just limiting growth, they were endangering the entire business model. Emirates competes primarily on network reach and service quality, but the airline's competitive advantage depends on having sufficient capacity to offer frequent flights to dozens of destinations. If the hub is full, growth stops. If growth stops, competitors can catch up. If competitors catch up, the whole strategy unravels. Dubai's aviation dominance isn't guaranteed by geography alone. It's maintained by scale, frequency, and operational excellence. A capacity-constrained hub is a dying hub. The mathematics became inescapable. Dubai International handles roughly 90 million passengers at absolute maximum capacity, with both runways running near theoretical limits. Emirates alone operates over 3,000 weekly flights. To continue growing, to maintain competitive pressure on rivals, and to justify the massive fleet orders Emirates had placed for next-generation aircraft, they needed more capacity. Not incrementally more, exponentially more. The only solution was Al Maktoum. But here's the critical problem. Splitting operations between two airports would destroy the network efficiency that makes the hub model work. Passengers connecting between flights need tight, reliable connections. Ground operations need to be concentrated. You cannot run a hub-and-spoke network efficiently across two airports 37 kilometers apart. This brings us to the decision. The only rational solution, despite appearing completely irrational on the surface, is to close Dubai International entirely and move all operations to Al Maktoum in a single coordinated transition. This is not unprecedented in aviation history, but it's extraordinarily rare at this scale. Munich successfully transitioned from their old airport to Munich Franz Josef Strauss Airport overnight in 1992. Berlin attempted a similar move and suffered through a decade-long disaster. The risks are enormous. The logistics are nightmarish. But the alternative, remaining constrained at Dubai International, guarantees slow decline. The 4.5-month closure window is not arbitrary. This is the minimum time required to physically relocate an entire airline's ground infrastructure, retrain thousands of staff, and conduct operational trials. Emirates will move over 150 aircraft, countless pieces of ground support equipment, and reconfigure its entire operational network. Competitors will undoubtedly try to capture market share during the transition. Passengers will be confused and frustrated. Revenue will crater temporarily, but the long-term calculus is clear. Accept short-term pain for long-term survival. What makes this decision particularly fascinating is how it reframes what initially appears as weakness into strategic necessity. Dubai International's closure isn't an admission of failure. It's the price of extraordinary success. The airport became a victim of its own effectiveness, and the only path forward required the courage to voluntarily destroy what had been built in order to build something greater. Aviation history is littered with airlines and airports that clung to outdated infrastructure because change seemed too painful or expensive. They died slowly, strangled by their own limitations. The deeper lesson here transcends aviation. Strategic constraints don't announce themselves with sirens and flashing lights. They accumulate quietly, masquerading as operational challenges that can be managed with efficiency improvements and clever tactics. By the time the constraint becomes obvious, it's often too late to address without radical action. Dubai recognized this early enough to act decisively, even though the action itself appears reckless to outside observers. The real genius isn't in the engineering of Al Maktoum International Airport, impressive as it is. The real genius is in the willingness to tear down a functioning, profitable system in pursuit of something better, knowing that standing still in aviation is simply falling behind in slow motion. When Dubai International goes dark in 2034, it won't mark the end of Dubai's aviation story. It will mark the moment when ambition overcame inertia, when long-term vision trumped short-term comfort, and when one of aviation's boldest experiments reaches its next phase. The airport that made Dubai a global city will close so that Dubai can remain a global city. Sometimes the only way forward is to shut everything down and start again.